I have no hesitation in saying that the Pakistan, despite all odds, we have a multi-ethnic society. There are local issues as well. But leaving aside all these things, there had been a strong commitment, whosoever was in the power and the government, that the women, especially those who are actually subject to violence, those who are voiceless, we have to be their voices. We have to actually stand up for their protection of their rights. And this commitment is at least for past 20, 25 years, when I recall the days, early 90s or late 80s, when the women had to go on the roads protesting, actually raising slogans for their rights, and very few male participants on those processions. If I recall my early days at the bar, I've been witness to these scenes. Back in late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, there had been regimes where it was impossible to get something out of the government circles. In 80s, the country was under the martial law siege, and that was the toughest time when certain oppressive laws were introduced. Those laws were later on undone by the democratic governments led by Benazir Bhutto and Nawaz Sharif, and that journey continued in late 80s and early 90s. I can say with pride that at least the one segment of that movement, the legislative work, has by and large been made by the governments with full commitment. And may I share, if I just quickly go through that, the latest addition in the legislative list is the Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Act 2021, Zainab Alert Response and Recovery Act 2020, the Enforcement of Women's Property Rights Act 2020, the Protection of Journalists and Media Professionals Act, which also deals with this segment as well, 2021, ICT Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2020, and Islamabad Capital Territory Prohibition of Corporal Punishment Act 2021. May I share at this juncture that these legislative instruments were carried out in the Parliament with, I would say, with almost negligible dissent or zero dissent. So there is a political will amongst the parties, be that the Treasury or the opposition benches. I am in the Senate for past 2 years. Menaz is in the National Assembly since 2018, and she had been proactively participating for legislative work in the parliamentary business. Rest assured, now the time comes for the implementation of the same. We at the Ministry of Law and Justice are fully aware of the thing that it's not only the legislation which gets or brings about the good results, it's the implementation. And for that matter, starting from the constitution of the committees or the courts or the prosecution service under these acts, we are taking all steps necessary to get positive results of these legislative instruments. Our ministry is always welcoming whenever you have time, and any one of the distinguished guests sitting over there belonging to the organizations or in its personal capacity, whatever suggestion you have or whatever kind of recommendations or help you need from Ministry of Law and Justice, I am also there. But once again, I would say that Menaz Akbar, she is a willing worker. She has been appointed as a focal person for UN Women. You are most welcome. I apologize for joining you a bit late. I had a very tight schedule and I have to rush back for a couple of things, but this was an event or the program I never wanted to miss.